Dragon Ball Super episode 115 is now officially in the history books as we make our way into Dragon Ball Super episode 116, and joining me here today to share our thoughts and predictions of the upcoming episode is my good friend Bubbles, aka Popo's Bedroom, as we are going to be discussing Ultra Instinct Goku having to collide against Kefla. Now Bubbles, I wanted to get your take as to what's going to happen in the upcoming episode involving Ultra Instinct Goku and Kefla, because the way everything was set up in Dragon Ball Super episode 115, it kind of portrays, looking at the overall preview, that Goku's going to annihilate Kefla, and maybe you feel differently about that, but I initially wanted to get your take as to what you feel is going to happen between Ultra Instinct Goku and Kefla, if you believe that Goku is going to inflict massive amounts of damage to Kefla, because in the preview we get to see how Kefla is unleashing a barrage of attacks, and it looks like nothing is working out. Of course, for anyone out there who hasn't seen the spoilers, we understand that UI Goku is going to burn out eventually during Dragon Ball Super episode 117. So Bubbles, I wanted to get your take on this, if you believe that Kefla is going to sustain massive amounts of damage and possibly even gaining a Zenkai boost from this, because we get to see how Goku in the preview is putting a beating on Kefla, and if you were to ask me, I think that Ultra Instinct Goku is just gonna utterly annihilate her. I think that she's gonna stand no remote chance. If anything, we might see her power up, but that's really up in the air because we don't really know for sure. So what's your take on Dragon Ball Super episode 116? Are we gonna see more of Toppo and Vegeta? Are we gonna see more of Gohan and Piccolo alongside the Namekians? And just essentially your thoughts on Kefla, and if you think that by the end of it she's gonna be really badly injured, or if you believe that by some chance he might ring her out, or is she gonna stick around for the rest of the tournament and essentially just gaining a Zenkai boost? So essentially enough, what are your thoughts on UI Goku versus Kefla, and in your prediction and in your estimate, where do you see her going forward as we transition deeper into the Tournament of Power?
Well, we got to see UI Goku and how strong he is when he was matched up against Jiren, so I think that it's definitely going to be interesting to see him against Kefla. I think for sure UI Goku has a power level or just any sort of strength that is really unimaginable for a normal Goku that we usually see. So to get to see him against Kefla, it's going to be kind of cool to get to see where her power lies against him, and to get to see where exactly she's going to fit and how well she fares, because as you mentioned before, it kind of does look like she's getting a bit of an ass whooping at in the preview. It doesn't look like she's faring too well, and so it is interesting to get to see, because we just see her throwing out attacks on attacks, and from just the looks of it, it doesn't really look like it's doing much against UI Goku. So it is very interesting to see how she fares against his attacks, and why she's continuously throwing out her own.
Do you see her like getting damaged like really badly, or possibly defusing, or do you think that she's still going to be around?
If she gets damaged, for sure, because I don't think she's getting wrung out anytime soon, honestly. Just to throw that one out there. But I do think if she's getting damaged, that it's just only going to continuously make her stronger. Because at the end of the day, we obviously know she is a Saiyan, and we know that Saiyans get stronger after each battle, and after each combat they learn new tips and tricks on how to make themselves last longer in battle.
Right.
I think that from what we've seen with the Universe 6 Saiyans progression so far, with how quickly they're able to gain transformations and I guess power boosts, that I think for sure after this battle, if she doesn't remain too victorious after this battle, I think for sure she's definitely going to be a force to reckon with after fighting UI Goku, because it's definitely going to give her, both of the girls, a special one-up on everyone else, because they're going to have the experience of having fought the Ultra Instinct Goku. So I think that definitely if she's not the one to win from this fight, she's definitely going to have a higher power, a power boost compared to everybody else just from fighting him alone.
What about if Kefla is able to increase her power even more? For example, we know that Caulifla is able to ascend into a Super Saiyan 2. So do you see it being possible that maybe Kefla can ascend into Super Saiyan 2 and maybe giving her a better chance? Because we do know that they're capable of doing that, even pushing boundaries and saying that maybe perhaps down the line we might end up seeing Super Saiyan 3, because that was foreshadowed in Dragon Ball Super episode 100 and Dragon Ball Super episode 113. And I wouldn't really rule that out, as I do think that she is going to stick around for a longer period of time. The only question is as to when and if this fight is going to have an impact on her body, on her spirit going forward. Even though she's a Saiyan, she can only take so much. And we understand that Jiren wakes up in the next episode, so that's going to be something like entirely just shocking to see as to what he does. But in regards to UI Goku, so do you think throughout the entire duration of the episode, Goku's just gonna mollywop her and just beat her down, or do you see Kefla having any sort of offense that can possibly just match up with him? Because based on the spoilers in the preview, we know that Goku fires off a point-blank range Kamehameha to her, so we don't really know what happens to her after that. But in terms of her doing anything to damage him or anything that can affect him, do you see any of that happening, or do you think that it's just going to be an entire episode of UI Goku just stomping her out until the very end when possibly he burns out, giving her the advantage?
Well, we definitely see her firing a lot of shots at him, definitely trying a whole bunch of different kinds of attacks. So I do think that, or I don't think that the entire episode is going to be just Goku completely smashing her. I don't think that that's going to be something that happens, because it's also considering Goku is tired and Goku is still getting used to the UI technique. Even though he's now done it once before, he's still getting used to it. So there might be some drawbacks that he might not necessarily know of because he himself has not had the technique for long enough to really know it front and back. And I think it would definitely be interesting to see how he fares against all of the attacks that Kefla is going to be throwing at him, because just from what we can see in the preview, they were coming one after another, her attacks. And then on top of that, knowing that Jiren woke up, or I guess stopped meditating while Goku went UI. So it's like knowing that we have this strong competitor Kefla against UI Goku. We know Jiren just came out of his meditation, and there's other fighters in the ring. So it's like there's a lot of things that's taking into consideration that I don't really think the entire episode is going to be just him completely smashing her. There's going to be other factors, and we get to see that with all of the attacks she's trying to put out.
Speaking of Jiren, do you see Jiren doing anything next week in terms of possibly taking notice and stepping in their direction just to simply watch? Or do you see him just awakening and the camera cutting from there? Because I think that Jiren as a character, they're going to present him in such a unique way to perhaps maybe he takes notice of this battle. Because I think more so than Kefla, he is interested in Goku and Goku only. As of right now, it is only known that Goku is the only person that can compete with him. So there's no confirmation if Kefla could be on any sort of, remote, caliber to where she can actually compete with him. But what I wanted to ask you is, what is Jiren's primary role going into next week's episode? Do you see him getting involved in any way, shape, or form in doing anything at all? Or is he simply going to crack open his eyes and that's going to be all we see from him? And aside from him, or do you think that we're going to see anything else from Toppo and Vegeta? Because I was a little surprised to see what we got here. Even though it was kind of like a back and forth thing, and like in the beginning, Toppo had the upper, the upper hand on Vegeta, whereas opposed to Vegeta had the upper hand on Toppo right towards the end of the episode. So do you see any sort of like back and forth struggle with them, or do you see this episode solely being based off of Goku and Kefla alone?
Well, I'm definitely excited to get to see some Jiren, because if I'm not mistaken, in the beginning of the tournament, we did get to see, I believe it was Jiren and Toppo kind of observing the other fighters and getting to see like their fighting techniques and just watching everyone before the two of them actually got into battle.
Right.
So I think that that's definitely something, other than just feeling the energies, I think Jiren is someone that also really likes to observe fights. So I think partially the reason that he could be breaking out of his meditation is because he does want to observe this fight, because Kale's power in the previous episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago, was enough to make Jiren flinch, was enough to make him consider that there was another power that could have been strong enough for him, or at least another fighter that was worth his watching. So I think that it's definitely interesting that we get to see in the preview that Jiren full-on opens his eyes, and I think that that definitely means he is ready to watch this fight. He knows what Goku is capable of perfectly, because he was able to not only observe him but fight him one-on-one.
Right.
And now he's felt this energy from Kale, and now gets to probably feel an even more immense power from Kefla. and is probably honestly really just wanting to take a look at this fight and see where it's going to lead them, and see if there's going to be any potential in this fight for him to jump in and gain the upper hand, or for him to actually be met at a match for one of the fighters. So I think that that's going to be interesting to see with Jiren. And opposed to Topo and Vegeta, I do hope we get to see more. I feel like the cutaways, even though it's annoying to have consistent cutaways of now we're seeing Kefla and Goku and then now we're seeing Topo and Vegeta, I think it's annoying to have the consistent switching instead of just having full dedicated episodes to each fight. But you have to remember the fact that every episode is almost about a minute, maybe less, maybe more.
Yeah, give or take, yes.
Yeah, and then there's other things going on. It's not just that one fight going on. So the cutaways kind of make sense to get to see the other fighters here and there, just to kind of give you the illusion instead of them, because in the 1 hour special they animated background fighters to make it look like there was other fighters doing things. So I think that the cutaways to other characters just kind of give us that little sense that this is still a tournament and this isn't a one-on-one match by any means. There's still other fighters that are out there, and there's still other fighters that are going to come into play. So I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see Vegeta and Topo fight some more in episode 116. I don't really think they're going to put too much of them because there's going to be a lot of hype, because they know UI Goku is very hype.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. He's a very merchandisable. Is that even going to be a word?
Marketable character. I mean, no, he is. I mean, for the take of like, I understand what they're trying to do, and Kefla is the only one right now that can actually push Goku in using that. Even though I really disagree with how he did it, it felt so, wonky. And for anyone out there who's gonna say, oh, you're hating on the character, no, I really dig Ultra Instinct Goku, but I don't like the way he was presented in this episode. It's almost as if like she was just casually going to unleash an attack, and then it forced them in transforming or just tapping back into this power. When if you look at it, anybody could have done that. I mean, you could have had Dispo or Topo or anybody else do the exact same thing in beating Goku down out of his Super Saiyan Blue form, and then thus unleashing an attack that forces him into tapping back into Ultra Instinct. I didn't really like that, but I loved how he made everything look so easy. And I think that going into next week's episode, he's going to stomp her out. She's not going to do anything. I think if she does anything, she's going to continuously show off her attacks. And she reminds me so much, I don't know about you, but she reminds me so much of Gotenks, because in the preview, we get to see how cocky she's acting, and she's creating all of these unique attacks with her body and with all the synergy around her. So I'm like, wow, okay, so she reminds me of Gotenks, and the idea that she's in pursuit, she's creating all these immense attacks, and she's trying, but in the long run, I don't think that she's gonna get wrung out. I think that Goku's gonna damage her really badly, and I think that this damage might actually end up doing her more good than harm, because as I said before, in my opinion, I do think that we are going to see a Super Saiyan 3 Kefla. It's only a matter of time, because I think that if we see Gotenks do it in Dragon Ball Z, I don't think it's impossible to see a similar concept be resurrected here in the idea where Kefla is able to do it too. What I also wanted to ask you is, what's your take on what we saw in this current episode involving the gods wanting to resort to using fusion, as we saw how Universe 3 and its gods of destruction and Kaioshin pretty much suggested that they don't really need to do fusion, they can do things on their own. Same thing, weirdly enough, with Universe 4, as Kitella wasn't worried at all. Beerus seemed to be worried in the idea that maybe we might end up needing fusion because of obstacles like Kefla and Jiren in the long run. Even though it's kind of iffy to say if we are going to see it, just off the top of your head, do you believe that we're going to see any other type of fusion from Universe 7 or any other universe, or do you think that Kefla is going to be the only one?
I hope not. I honestly, fusion is something...
No Vegito?
I really don't want to see Vegito again. I do love Vegito as a character.
Can you imagine though?
I adore Vegito as a character. I do think, the last time we saw him, I think he was done a bit dirty with how quickly he used. But
how do you feel that Kefla has more airtime than him?
I definitely think it just means that her power hasn't burned through it yet, which, I mean, the power scaling doesn't make sense, so it's hard to justify anyways, but I just think that at this rate, if she was able to completely pummel a Super Saiyan Blue Goku, which we all know, like, the powers that Super Saiyan Blue should have, even just Super Saiyan God as well, something that was able to push Beerus to fight. Like, I don't mean match with Beerus, but at least a form that was able to fight with Beerus. You know, that's something that Kefla was so easily able to beat that I think it's a bit of a stretch that she's still completely fused with, like, no drawbacks of, like, almost being defused. But I don't know, honestly, I really hope we don't see any more fusion in this tournament. I was kind of glad when Kefla, like, swooped in and, like, made the Universe 2. I believe it was Universe 2.
Yeah, Universe 2. So casually, she was like, move, and, like, she just pushed him out the way, and the earrings got crushed. I was so happy
for that. Because you know what, it's also, though, you have to remember, at the end of the tournament, it's the most members standing.
Yes.
And I do believe fusion, you're only counting them as one head. You're not counting them as two. So fusion anyways, and if you don't power out the fusion, what is it? It lasts for mortals upwards to an hour, right? If they don't defuse before that. So that's an hour right there, and the tournament only has less than 20 minutes left. So that's an hour to only count one head for two people. That could make the difference of one universe being erased over another, and I don't think that many of the gods are taking that into consideration. And I think that that's something that Beerus might see, and maybe that's why he was a little bit on the fence with the fusion.
Right.
But he did also he said something, or somebody said something about 17 and 18.
Yeah. Shin suggested that perhaps maybe the androids should fuse in creating Android 35, and we suggested that if that were the case, they could be risking, you know, getting double eliminations if that were to happen. So let's say, for example, They do end up fusing and someone knocks him out. There goes two fighters right there. So It's like Beerus was like, no, the hell with that. Then it's better for us to do our own thing than risk having to get a double elimination. I mean, but do you think that would even work if they end up fusing those two, in your opinion?
17 and 18?
Right.
I hope not. I like them so much as individual characters that I really feel like all of the character development and all of, like, the cool qualities we have of each character is gonna be lost if we see them fuse. I mean, because like I already said, I'm not really against fusion. I just don't like when something is that overused.
Right.
Like, I feel like it's gonna be very played out if we have, like, all of the similar characters fuse. Like, having the two female Saiyans fuse, alright, that's fine. But then if we're gonna have the two androids from Universe 7 fuse, that's, pushing it. And then what's next? Then the Namekians from Universe 6 are gonna fuse?
Yeah,
like,
it's gonna be a total cluster of just fusions, right.
They're gonna get too fusion happy, and it's gonna be annoying. And then you're considering every knockoff, like you said, is counting as two heads knocked off. But then when it comes to the end of the tournament, is that only gonna count as one fighter, or does that count as two fighters? Because then if that's the case, everyone should fuse and they're all, like, hiding,
Right. I mean, I think ultimately enough, next week's episode is just going to be a shit stomp, and I think that Goku's just going to stomp her out completely. As everyone keeps pointing out, they're saying that Universe 6 is going to be next to get destroyed. I really don't think so. I think, in my opinion, it's about to be Universe 2, in my opinion. I think it's time for, them to go. They haven't really provided much with Universe 2, so I would say they're going to be next in line. Kefla and Moscow have something playing with their guys, but I think in the long run, Goku's going to beat her down. But by no means is she going to get wrung out. So, guys, let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below if you guys agree or disagree with our opinions. Also, guys, make sure to go on ahead and check out Bubbles on Twitter. I'm going to go on ahead and leave her Twitter down below for you guys to go on ahead and check her out, guys. Ask her some questions if you guys are curious. And, again, post your comments down below if you guys have any other suggestions or predictions of your own for Dragon Ball Super Episode 116. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to go on ahead and slap a like down below. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys. Tune back in for more, and we'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.